Where Dust Remembers What the Gun Forgot by Reuben White. A suspense western in the Deep-River Dialectic. The high lonesome doesn't ask your name. It just opens up, wide and merciless as a debt collector's grin, and swallows the hoofbits whole, until all that's left is the creak of saddle leather and the slow, hot arithmetic of the sun. Deputy Caleb Drum had ridden that arithmetic for 3 days straight, chasing a ghost named Silas Crane across the Sangre Flats. It was a stretch of alkali earth so pale it looked like the land had bled out long before any man thought to name it. Caleb wasn't born into the law had been pressed into him, the way a branding iron presses into hide, slow, smoking, and permanent. He was a man of stripped-down seasons, a tree that had shed 3 marriages and 2 good horses somewhere between the Pecos and the place where prayers stop echoing. What does a man carry when the road runs out beneath his boots? The dust don't lie beneath the boot's dry press. It reads the weight of what a man confess. His silence heavier than iron drawn. A gun half rusted, grip half worn. The trail don't end, it learns to breathe. Like winter trees that learn to grieve. He wore no badge today. It was tucked in his bag, wrapped in a kerchief the color of old surrender. Because the badge don't make the man who carries the law in his marrow. The man makes the badge into something it was never brave enough to be alone. The riddle of Silas Crane. Silas Crane was known from Abilene to the Arizona Strip as a gone-to-seed desperado. He was a man who'd started as something righteous and curdled slow, the way good milk curdles when the seller forgets to stay cool. He had robbed the Territorial Bank of Las Mesas for one reason the papers ignored. To buy back the land deed to his grandmother's 40 acres, auctioned off by a judge who owed the railroad more loyalty than he owed God. Is a man more dangerous when he has nothing left to lose, or when he has just discovered what he never knew he was protecting? A man who robs to plant an ancient root. Is he the thief, or is he the refute? The law said, hang him from the oak. The oak said nothing, oaks don't speak. They drop their leaves and learn to seek the thing beneath the frozen ground, where spring is lost before it's found. Caleb had studied the tracks at the dry creek bed, read of them like scripture, and understood something the marshal's warrant did not. Silas wasn't running from. He was running toward Jawbone Hollow, where the cottonwood trees stood thick as church deacons, where the land remembered a woman named Lottie Crane who had once grown sweet corn from soil that tasted like answered prayer. The ambush at Widow's Notch. Then the rifle spoke first. It always does in the flats, the gun never waits for the sermon to end. The shot clipped the saddle horn. Caleb was off his horse before the echo found its legs, face in the alkali, heart hammering like a revival tambourine. He tasted iron and dust and the particular salt of his own reckoning. The bullet passed like winter through the bone. It did not wound him, yet he felt it known. The way a tree feels ice beneath its skin. And chooses, still, to hold the cold within. To shed is not to die, the bare branch knows. The roots run deeper where the blizzard blows. He counted 3 guns by the muzzle flashes catching the last razored light of the sun. 3 hard cases, bounty riders working for Olin Cutter, the man who held the new deed to Lottie's land. They weren't after justice. They were after silence. Caleb did something then that no lawman's manual suggested. He holstered his iron. He stood up, slow as Sunday, tall as consequence, and walked into the canyon mouth with his hands at his sides. He wasn't surrendering. He was just rooted. What is it that stops a hired gun? Not the threat of death, but the unbearable weight of a man who has already made peace with it. The man who walks into the barrel's mouth without flinching has not abandoned the will to live, he has only stopped mistaking fear for the proof that he was ever truly alive. Jawbone Hollow at dusk. The gunman did not fire again. Whether it was the stillness in his step or the fading light, the 3 hard rides eased back into the scrub and disappeared the way bad intentions do when they see themselves reflected in a calm man's eyes. The hollow breathed like something long asleep. The cottonwoods in rows, like vows they keep. And Silas Crane stood at the farthest edge. A man made bare by what he'd come to pledge. He held no gun. He held a deed instead. A piece of dirt worth more than all his dread. Silas looked at Caleb the way a man looks at the fork in a river. Neither man drew. "You come to drag me in, drum?" Silas asked. "I come to see what kind of man plants roots in borrowed ground," Caleb replied. "Wasn't borrowed," Silas spat. "Was took." A long silence followed, rough as burlap, heavy as river clay. Caleb reached into his bag, took out the badge, and set it on a stone between them. Justice is not the scale that weighs good against bad, it is the river that decides which stones deserve to surface and which must wait for the water to change its mind. The spring that doesn't apologize. Caleb Drum left the badge on that stone. He rode out the way a dry creek leaves, quietly, carrying only what the rain intended it to carry. He would file no report. He had found no outlaw, only a man returning to the original fact of himself. He shed the star the way a tree sheds leaves. Not lost, but laid to rest beneath the eaves. Of winter's truth, that bear is not the same. As broken, bare is just without its name. And spring don't ask what leaf the branch let go. Just sends the green to prove the roots still know. And Silas Crane? He pressed the deed into the soil the way his grandmother had pressed seed corn, firm and deliberate. He didn't plant for vindication. He planted because the land was asking, and he had finally learned to answer. What is the frontier if not the place where a man finally outruns the story someone else told about him, and must decide, in the silence, which story to tell next? The Sangre Flats don't remember names. They remember weight. They remember the exact angle of a man's shadow at the last moment he was still unsure of himself. After that, the shadow changes. And the dust, well, the dust remembers everything. The dust remembers what the gun forgot. That every man is more than what he shot. More than the warrant or the wanted sign. More than the border or the broken line. A tree made bare by all he had to lose. Now rooted deep, refusing to refuse.